During the partner drills with pads, it's a good idea to get into the habit of both of you being involved in the activity rather than just one person holding the pad and the other one punching it. Obviously, if you're doing very specialized, specific drills and it's just training an athlete, for instance, then it is just the one person training and the other one just holding, because there's a very defined purpose, a very specialized reason for doing it. Generally, though, you often see the pad holder is just switched off and just holding the pad. This is a bad habit to get into because, first of all, there's no feedback from the pad. So what I mean by that is when you hit something, you need it to be solid. So, for instance, if there's no anticipation from the pad holder, then as soon as you hit the thing, it's just going to ping back. Or if the pad holder is just holding it stiff, without anticipation, it's just going to make the arms ache and the hand jerk, and you might get an injury as the pad holder there. So, if you're the pad holder, when you anticipate the punch coming in, you just kind of drop and sink and meet it there. You root to the floor heavily, but also there's a certain anticipation where you absorb the punch into the pad, just like you would if you were catching a punch in real life. Or catching a ball, you wouldn't just let it bounce into the hand, you would meet it. So, with the pad drills that you'll see in this video, you'll see that there's an anticipation and a catching, an absorption of the power, just like if you were hitting something solid. Because if you were to, punch somebody in a boxing match, they wouldn't just stand there. You would wait for that moment where they were walking into it. So in that way, the pad holder moves into and catches the punch. The other thing you'll see is that there's a certain anticipation, as if the two people are fighting or in a dance. Now, if you dance, it isn't just one person dancing for a moment and then another after that. The two people are dancing, and it's the same with training. The two people are mirroring each other's movements and anticipating each other's movements, so that there's an energy between them. Now, if one person's just statically holding the pad, there's no energy there. So the energy you convey as a trainer, as the pad holder, can be absorbed or infected into the person you're training, or even the training partner. So, and just as in the same way, the person punching conveys a certain energy into the pad holder. So there's not only you holding the pad for your partner, but you're actually responsible to some degree for the intensity they bring and for the energy between the two of you, because it's a reciprocal flowing nature. So it's important how you do it. If there's just, for example, if we were training and I said, well, a jab first and then another punch in a predetermined way, that's fine, but the rhythm and the timing needs to be slightly off. Not off in a wrong way, but off in a unpredictable way, just to see if the training partner is actually reading your movements. So if I was to do a simple jab cross combination found in boxing, you might start just by doing 1, 2. but later you would do 1, 1, 2, so that the training partner can read the energy of the situation and rely intuitively on their timing and also their reading of the situation rather than just some predetermined rhythm. So there's a disorganized structure within an organized structure, and in the same way there's an organized structure within a seemingly chaotic one. So the message really is to read the situation intuitively and to think about, rather than just seeing, feeling what's going to happen. Feeling's important. If you just use your eyes to look and focus on one thing, you tend to miss the rest because the blinkers are on. Instead, it can be beneficial just to switch the brain off to a degree and rely on the intuitive mind. So, one way of doing this is to just feel the situation from the center. So, for instance, by focusing on the neck is a good one to do. The ears contain balancing, what's the word, a spirit level which balances the body and head in accordance with the environment. So the eyes can detect certain changes in the opponent or the environment, and there'll be the automatic, intuitive response within the body there to balance it out. So you can focus on where that converges, which is around the eyebrows, which is the third eye center. In the pituitary gland region of the brain, right in the middle of the brain. Now obviously the neck is rich in nerves. I don't know if you know this, but by stretching the neck and just listening to the inner voice of instruction, the inner guru, if you like, the inner master, it's possible to really heighten sensitivity to the environment to the point where you can read very subtle cues. So a way in here is to focus on the neck, stretching it, chin down, neck up, right, hips engaged, and just focus on listening to that inner instruction, so that you can intuitively read it, even if you can't consciously see and deliberately plan what you're going to do next. Because often, when you see something, it's too late. When you sense it, it's then time to act. But of course, that requires the right tuning in of the senses. So, just by listening, if you just listen to the situation within, there's a certain clarity of what to do next. Obviously, you can't just listen without training this system, this energy center, which is found in the neck and the third eye. However, with work, it can be achieved. A final thing to mention, by just listening, this activates certain balancing mechanisms in the jaw, which stabilize the head and neck. And you'll notice an engagement of the upper chest. So this is all supportive of the apparatus which balances the body and feels a change in the environment rather than sees it. Now this is known as the chakra in the neck is known as Vishuddhi, and it's known as the seat of wisdom. The door of silence is there. This means that if you remain quiet in terms of just sensing what needs to be done from within, you'll read the situation well if you rely on it and train it and get used to it. If you're constantly just looking for outside cues, then this switches off to a degree. So it's not a question of just ignoring what's happening outside, but it's listening inside as well. So by focusing on the neck, third eye, keeping balance, keeping straight, keeping focused, it's a good way to read the situation, particularly between two people who are training, because often one is on and one is off. There's got to be that same level of involvement between the two, like that the whole time. Because there's an energy between people in a fight, there should be the same energy between people in training. It's not just one person training, the other one not. No, that's never the situation as it is. So finally, we've gone over quite a lot. The Vishuddhi chakra, the door of silence in the neck. The ears are linked to wisdom, so they converge at the center here. It's the middle of where the two ears meet the brain. That feeds down the nervous system, which is a point in the neck, first of all. So that's the first relay point from the senses to the rest of the body. This is why it's an important place to focus on. Now, I've written extensively on this on the site, so feel free to look there for more information. Thank you for watching, and happy training. So here we're about to demonstrate these principles on the pads. So as I'm hitting the pad here, it doesn't look like the pad holder's doing an awful lot. However, there's that sense of anticipation about what I'm doing, so that when I hit full speed, the punch doesn't just deflect off, and it's absorbed, like very much like catching a ball in your hand. There's the anticipation there to absorb the energy from it. And that's very much the job of the pad holder, to absorb that energy so that you can do the more rapid combos. It's never going to come off exactly perfectly, but that's not the point of the drills. The point of the drills is to practice timing, to anticipate the combinations that the pad holder's putting forward, and to even suggest practicing certain things yourself. So these are very much off the cuff, rough and ready. There's no refinement particularly here. It's just working on ad hoc skills that we've put together over the years from training. But there's a certain fluidity to it. It's never going to be perfect as improvised, but even if you go wrong like I did there, in fact, you can always recover. So often in the pad drills there's a right and wrong, so-called, but really if you go wrong, it often just presents a new opportunity for you to go right again. So if you, for example, were to fall over, there'd be a response within the body that would cause you to actually recover and to right the wrong that you had done. So mistakes are just mistakes. If you make the wrong movement, anticipate the wrong thing, that's fine. It doesn't matter really. It doesn't say anything about technical ability. So it's always good to start off with the simple combinations and to get those going. Just like if you're going to walk up a big mountain or something, you first want to warm up, get the timing there, get the rhythm going, and that's what this is about to begin with. So some of the things we're working on here is keeping it straight down the line. There shouldn't be any winging really. It should all be concentrated down the center. That's where the power comes from, and that's where it should be channeled down. So even if there's a hooking punch, it's kept tight, as I'm explaining here. Now, what I'm talking about here is the importance of the neck, and how there are so many nerves in the neck. The neck should be straight. Well, it should be high, it should be stretched, even if it's not straight. So this gathers all the energy in this region of the neck, and there's a lot of energy gathered there and internally felt. So immediately you can see that even with the turning strikes, the hooks, etc., there's still a turning of the neck, which really helps with that rotational force. So after you've warmed up a bit on the pads, then you can quite naturally speed up with ease, with relative ease. It's never easy, it's an intensive exercise. However, there's a certain ease. And what I'm pointing out here is just the sorts of things we can work on, combinations. For example, here there's a jab, a straight, and there's a micro bound in, a shift inwards if you watch. At the end, that just covers that last bit of ground quite nicely. So that's it for the demonstration there. So it's not really a question of, for me at least, combat effectiveness of pad drills. That's an aspect of it, but really it's the energy between the pad holder and the hitter. Obviously there are drills which are specific to sports, self-defense, but really it's an energy between the pad holder and the hitter. So obviously you want the drills to have a carryover of effectiveness in the street or in self-defense, which is the same thing. But first and foremost, it's about being totally engaged in the actual exercise. That's the key point for me. And then whatever you want to get out of it, you will get out of it, because if you're fully engaged, you can't really go wrong. So it's full engagement, full involvement. Not just from one to you don't. So in my opinion, you don't just do 1, 2, and then switch off. No, you have to be on 100% for the duration of that exercise. And I don't mean going 100% physical intensity, but there's that awareness, the inner perception of engagement and being involved in the task properly rather than just half-heartedly. So it's an exercise in that, first of all. So what you get out of the pad work really depends on what you want to put in. For most people, for a high percentage of people, it will just be a physical exercise, but it can be a lot more than that. And depending on how much you give to the arrangement, the more both parties will get out of it, the trainer and the fighter, the holder and the striker, the partnership will benefit, whichever arrangement is. So my advice is to give yourself to the exercise with 100% commitment and awareness and involvement, whether that's for self-defense, fitness, health, or all three. That will depend on the individual. I don't really have an opinion on that. Everybody has their own needs. There are some people that just want pure effectiveness, physical effectiveness. Others will just want exercise, and then others will want to feel that energy and to apply it to physical exercises. So if you're interested in applying this energy to the physical exercises, then you will benefit from sharing that energy as an ethos between whoever's training, so that you're both totally engaged with that. Now, of course, that extends far beyond the exercise, the pad work and the gym work. At its highest level, this involvement can be experienced as much or as little as you like. It can be experienced for hours, for minutes, for days. It all depends on how much you want to give to this arrangement. And not just the pad work and to your partner, but to life more broadly, because at its highest level, martial arts is applied to everyday situations in any look, any gesture. If that can be imbued with the same intensity, not just physical intensity, but awareness and perception that you're having an impact on your environment, then it's a really powerful thing that can totally absorb you 24/7.